Into this week in Missouri politics midweek update. We are joined by the Italian side himself, the Prince of Phelps County, the old silver tongue devil, Jack Cardetti. Thank you for making the time to sit and talk a little politics.
Great to be here in the dog days of summer.
Boy, I tell you, it's been just hot, hot, hot. I mean, almost you'd think that Al Gore had a point. And then today the weather broke and it rained, and I'm like, oh, that some bitch didn't know anything about it. Right? He's a goofy liberal.
It was kind of the 3 or 4 hottest days in the history of the world were last week or two. But,
I mean, you just had to be sitting in water hole somewhere, right? I mean, it just was miserable every day, every day, every day. But now that it rained, I'll go back to denying global warming and get my big F-150 and feel no guilt.
I tell you, the Big Piney River is the best place to be on a hot day.
I'm with you.
So we floated a couple weeks ago, and it was great.
Gasconade ain't bad.
Yeah.
Gasconade ain't
so
bad.
I like Gasconade for boats. Yep. If I'm floating, I'm the Big Piney. So that's the difference.
I will say this. Big Piney is thick enough that you don't drag your hind end. When you're a big old boy like me, there are some spots in Current River where you'll run aground. I mean, you almost had to pick that tube up and walk, because if you got your hind end set in the tube, the donut, guy my size will drag it around a little bit. You might. Kelton would make it. You might make it. I don't make it. Y'all are floating down the river, and I'm standing up walking. Let's talk politics. Your old boss, the Babe Ruth of Missouri politics, Jay Nixon. So everybody's probably read now, Jay Nixon came in, and he's going to join this no labels thing, which is essentially a third party thing, which is not real. And the man who's gotten more votes than anybody in the history of this state knows, well, that's not real. I read some of his comments. I have not talked to him personally about it,
and neither have I.
But this is just my reading of him as I say you're an unqualified admirer. I'm an admirer of former Governor Nixon a great deal, to be honest with you. And I've studied him because you study the person like people studied Babe Ruth's swing, right? They couldn't replicate it. Well, if you're in politics or you observe politics, you probably ought to study the Babe Ruth of Missouri politics swing. Yeah. It feels like to me, the guy who was pro-death penalty when Governor Carnahan was giving him grief about it has had a beef with there's a quote. I think you told it to me, and I asked him about it when I interviewed him about his career. The quote was, when Democrats value work and honor work, they win elections. And when they value handing things out for free, they lose elections. And I think the Democrat Party has had I don't want to say been taken over, but there's a resurgence of folks that's focused on what can you give out, which is not him. And obviously, him and McCaskill were the last major figures that won elections on the Democrat side in this state. I think this is more a statement on he's kind of sick of his own party not taking winning elections seriously enough. Am I wrong?
Well, look, I think what you have, one of the things about Governor Nixon, and if you look throughout his career, he always did a really good job of sort of understanding and articulating what is the sensible center, right?
Yeah.
Where is the center of politics? There's going to be some that fall on the left of that. There's going to be some on the right. But, by and large, this is what Missourians think. This is what Missourians value or whatever. And I think one of the things that there's a frustration not only with him, but also some Republicans, is that both parties seem to be inching away from that sensible center, right? And it's happened for a number of reasons, redistricting, demographics, all that kind of stuff. But, when Donald Trump, through all he's been through, and for the fact that he may be the only person, that can't beat Joe Biden at all, the fact that he's still likely going to be the nominee, and the fact that you have the Democrats continue to leach a little bit to left, I think that is created a void here. Now, do I think that there's going to be a viable third party, especially for a presidential? Absolutely not.
No.
Since the days that
else.
Hamilton started fighting Madison, right? We've been a two-party system, and there's a lot of reasons why that was.
There was a window in time. Obviously, I was in junior high.
Is it Jesse Ventura?
Well, it was Ross Perot.
There you go. I
mean, Ross Perot was polling, from what I've read, ahead of the other two candidates. And to me, I wasn't paying obviously into politics that much at the time, but that was like the window in time you could have changed the system. And then he dropped out of the race, it got squirrely, and the moment it faded. Now, whether that would have lasted to actually people voting for him, I don't know, but he definitely polled higher than anybody else in third party. I kind of just feel like Governor Nixon is frustrated with Democrats maybe not sticking to things that work for Democrats and getting into things that are, I guess, just more progressive that he doesn't think works or doesn't think works at the ballot box consistently. Now, that's my read on what he's doing. I have a hard time believing this person who knows how to get votes better than anybody in the history of this state, going back to Thomas Hart Benton, thinks that you can have a viable third party. I just don't believe that.
Yeah, and look, like I said, I talk to my Republican friends now, and there's frustration.
Sure.
With the party on that side.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Is that, look, the people that we used to win elections for, that's not the motivation anymore. So I do think there is consternation on both sides that when Missouri was a toss-up state, you had to be so laser focused on how do we bring the sensible center into our camp, right? And that as voters, they're renters, not buyers, right?
Sure.
You're not,
yeah.
They're not on your team.
Yep.
They might be for an election, they might be for a couple elections, right? But by and large, you have to continue to talk to them. You have to be able to provide policies that actually help their bottom line of their pocketbook.
So here's the question I have for you, Jack. Now, if we got in a truck and we went south of St. James down to Steelville, maybe we went on to Leesburg, I have a hard time believing right now, and let's just talk hogs, dogs, and logs for a second. Is someone in Leesburg better off getting their state income tax, which they don't even really pay, cut another 1/10%, or widening up Medicaid and get another 300 folks in Leesburg on Medicaid? Is the community of Leesburg better off, just from a dollars and cents, let's act like we're running a business?
Yeah.
I'm not sure you can argue many parts of rural Missouri are better off cutting their taxes 1/10% than they are giving some more services out. Now, can you take that too far? Of course, and all that, but I think they just don't want, a trans person to play sports more than they care about, or they have no faith that they'll actually benefit from the policy. I don't know what it is, but I'm not sure that's true anymore, that they're better off the pocketbooks being hit with the policies. It could just be they gave up on thinking any of it's real.
Yeah, but again, this week is a 5-year anniversary of the right to work vote in the state of Missouri. Right? That happened 5 years ago. This week, the voters overwhelmingly went and they said, no, we're not voting for that because we want to protect our pocketbooks. Right? And that was when I talk about pocketbook issues and being able to actually take public policies and say, this is how it's going to affect you. Right? You're not a union member. That doesn't matter. It's still gonna hurt your pay if this goes through, right? That's an example of why Democrats are able to bring, not just Democrats, but Republicans, and especially those rural areas, and say, guys, vote for yourselves right here. Do what's in your best interest and protect your own pocketbook. And I think that says something. And look, the same thing happened on Medicaid expansion, quite frankly, right? I mean, they were able to.
Why is that not working on candidates?
Because that's a great question. It's something we sort of talk about all the time, right?
I think there's folks on the pro-life issue. I think Democrats are making the biggest mistake that they've made. I think that I personally have watched the Republican majority in the legislature 20 years was built on guns and abortion, and some theoretical promise of tax cuts that didn't come for 15 years. And I challenge you, the last tax cut they did last fall, is there one Missourian that noticed a difference in their state income tax on that pay stub?
Yeah, depending on how many zeros are in their net worth. The more zeros there are, the more there. But by and large,
there ain't one guy fitting pipes the other day. There ain't one guy turning a wire nut. There ain't one guy swinging a hammer. There ain't one lady working in an office that noticed one damn penny's difference in their pay stub.
So, but the difference is in modern day politics, right?
You're a rich man. Did you notice any difference in your pay stub?
Absolutely no difference. No, most people won't. So the difference is that, there's the famous old quote, which I love, right? All politics is local. Yep. Right. It's a great quote, and it made sense for that time, and it reminded people that went out to Washington that, hey, people care about the potholes more than whatever.
Not true anymore.
Vote, whatever. All politics is now national, and it's because of a number of different reasons. Right. How do you get your news? Yep. And it's tribal right now, politics, right? And so what that says is that when you have a race and someone has an R next to their name or a D next to their name, 85% of voters know how they're going to vote before they even tell them who the candidates are. Right. And so when it comes to partisan,
take the over on that.
Yeah, when it comes to partisan races, just by virtue of how they voted in the presidential race means how they're going to vote for county auditor, right? Based on if somebody has an R or D next to name. Now, on ballot initiatives, and again, the last 5 years in Missouri, and I've been lucky to be a part of them. We've done right to work, we've done medical marijuana, we've done Medicaid expansion, we've done marijuana legalization. Great, but those are issues that don't have an R or D next to their name. So when you throw that out, you throw the RRDs out and you don't have that, then voters look at things with an actual open mind a little bit and say, and they do a value proposition. What am I getting from this? What am I giving up? Right. And good campaigns are the ones that are obviously able to articulate what you're getting from public policy. Marijuana. We are on average in the state of Missouri are selling $4 million worth of legal cannabis every single day on average.
Now, of that $4 million a day, what kind of cuts going to veterans?
So on veterans right now, we have now the marijuana industry in Missouri.
That was the sale to the you went to Missourians and you said,
yep,
you let us sell this,
yep,
for medical, for recreational,
yep,
and we're gonna get off your back, get the government out of your life, and we're gonna take care of this and give to veterans. What kind of cuts the veterans getting so far?
Yeah. So as of last month, for the first time, we have now surpassed $100 million going to the state in revenue.
What, buddy, that's gotta make you feel good.
So, and
that's gonna make you feel good, buddy.
Coming this fall, that for the first time, we're going to have cities and counties start to get a part of that tax revenue.
As a patriotic man who's got kinfolks with 2 flag stores in St. James, that's got to make you feel good, though. I mean, that's a hell of a deal.
It really, marijuana in Missouri, legal cannabis is now $1 billion industry.
And actually, you can point and say, look, this is the money. We got a canceled check somewhere, right? That's sent to a veterans fund,
yep,
and the state's doing things. That's a hell of an account. You know, when you get done with your career, Jack, it's got to make you feel good.
Well, one of the cool things too is just when you travel around the state, you look at warehouses that sat empty for decades, right? When we see manufacturers that are now growing some of the highest quality cannabis in America. You have, you have manufacturers, who had gone apart, who are now working. You have dispensary workers that were in abandoned strip malls that are now some of that. So
industry's done a good job on this point. I believe the industry's done a fine job. I personally always felt like it ain't my business what you smoke. It just isn't. I mean, who am I to tell you what to do? But I'm a hillbilly, and we're kind of that way. I really like the fact, like in Jeff City, I don't know how many dispensaries there are, which is a good thing.
Yep.
The one I do know of, because you told me where it was, it is not some big thing with a bunch of pot leaves and goofy, smelly hippies out front. It is a very nice place. I have not been in it, but I'll tell you, it is not like you go to Denver. And it's like, what the hell? This is disgusting. You do not see that where I've seen that you get the benefit of letting people do what they want. You get the benefit of helping veterans, and you don't have a bunch of dirty hippies, smelly crap everywhere. And I think that was the fear of folks. You have these people smelling pot on the corner and stuff. I think that's been the needle that's been threaded by that industry has been very good for this state.
Yeah, and it really we've approached that differently in Missouri. They're an integral part of these little communities now, right? Not only the tax revenue, not only the jobs. Again, 16,000 Missourians now directly work in the cannabis industry in Missouri, double what it was this time last year or whatever. So a lot of job growth there, and they're becoming part of the communities, right? They are, sponsoring your bake sales. They're sponsoring, up in Kirksville.
How funny would that be?
They were sponsoring the demolition derby up in Kirksville that I saw recently. Now, if that doesn't say I'm a part of your community,
I don't say Missouri. So. I don't know what does. Speaking of saying Missouri, this was a disgusting joke given to me this time by a guy named Jim from North Missouri. He's actually he's infected with the disease of being a Cubs fan. So he sent me this as a cold reminder of what used to be the St. Louis Cardinals before they just went to all hell. It's just, I'm not going to cry here, but it's not good. Jim, I'd say thank you, but I ain't going to do it. I am going to keep the Stein, and when better days come, I'm going to take a big gulp out of it and send you a picture of it. And my buddy,
I decided to go with the Mark Twain Stein.
Love that.
Which is always.
Isn't that,
always
that's
appropriate.
That's you want to see Missouri right there. You have the Wake Up to Missouri, which was the old tourism campaign.
Loved it.
Branded with Anheuser-Busch in a beer stein with Mark Twain on it. Now, what's more Missouri than that?
That's very show me.
I'll tell you one thing that's very your neck of the woods. I found this old Liebeyer pen that my buddy Billy had sent me. How about that? There's an I like Liebeyer in there. I like Mike. And then I got a how about this? We was talking about it's getting to be fall. I got my first invitation to his haunted house, Governor Dockery. If you tour the old penitentiary tours here, there's a haunted penitentiary tour that's super great. You ought to really go. The Dockery, he's got his bust still on the side of the building there because he's the one that built the penitentiary.
Huh.
When you go in there, look up. There's a big bust of the governor there. And the last one, talk about how times have changed. In this bundle of pins he sent me was the Vision into Action, the Planned Parenthood button with the Margaret Sanger Centennial. I don't think they talk about her so much anymore, right?
There we go.
I think the Planned Parenthood folks have kind of moved
Yeah.
past their founder there and moved
Well,
on.
the one I had to do a double take is Ashcroft for Congress.
Yep.
I'd forgotten that.
There's two things I always show
didn't
folks
know that.
when they come by the office. I have a Ashcroft for Congress. John Ashcroft, he went on to be relatively successful in politics. I think you might have heard him as United States Attorney General. He lost his first race, as did my first boss, Mark Richardson. Mel Carnahan lost a race. Bob Holden lost a Missouri politics is littered with people that have lost a race and went on to do all right.
Kit Bond.
There you go. And
Yep.
then I got this great picture. I've thought of it a lot recently. It's of when you're a senator and you get appointed to a commission like Ryan Silvey did. The president of the Senate has to sponsor you because you don't have a Senate sponsor because you're your senator. So the tradition is the president of the Senate sponsors you. So Ron Richard, who detested Ryan Silvey, sitting beside Ryan Silvey, who detested Ron Richard, sitting there with the look on just like somebody farted on their face. It's the best. I always tell, but hey, don't forget, you never know how the deck gets reshoveled all the time.
I would have loved to know the conversation between them before they went out.
I watched. So they met in the room, both because they knew what was up. Went to do a handshake, the most awkward handshake you've ever seen in your life. It was almost like a fist bump handshake, wasn't quite sure. And then they sat there and then they told jokes for a minute, which both of them are good at telling a joke to crack the situation. But the picture that the Senate took, both of them looking like a mugshot. I mean, could not look more. I framed it in my office. I'm like, never forget. You never know what's will turn around. So I think Nixon's doing this as a statement of disappointment in the Democrat Party. Am I wrong to think that's possible?
Look, I don't know, obviously, but I don't believe that a lot of people understand believe that there'll be a viable third party. I just don't think it's going to happen in Missouri. It's not set up. He ain't going to be the DeSoto precinct captain for Donald Trump, right? That ain't happening. Yeah, I don't think so. So I understand if you're a Republican and you thought that was great news. Look, whatever you want to think about it, I more think you should hope Democrats don't listen to Jay Nixon, because I don't think he's going to be out there handing out Josh Hawley handbills at the Jefferson County Fair. No, I would have trouble seeing that.
So. But somebody that might be at the Jefferson County Fair handing a handbill is Josh Hawley. That's a joke, obviously. He won't actually be there. But who might come down is Carla May. You got Carla May. Yeah. Lucas, do you know Lucas Coons?
No, just I've met him once or twice. Don't know. Obviously, know Senator May a little bit. Know Wesley Bell. I think I've met him once.
Wesley Bell a little bit. Know Carla May very well.
That's an interesting race shaping up. If the three of them all stay in that race, I think I think it'll be hard.
So to me, Lucas Coons would have the shortest long shot to win. He can raise some money. He's got a military background. Yeah. You know, he's pretty slick on TV. Yeah. But I think in a primary, you know, Carla, an African-American woman, has an advantage in the Democrat primary. The Democrat primary is very small in number of votes and very geographically centered in cities. An African-American woman starts with an advantage. Wesley Bell would have an advantage over Lucas Coons. I mean, I think there is truly a sentiment that is very honest, that believes that it's essentially an affirmative action argument that women, African-Americans, gay people, disaffected groups have been held down. And if you can vote for one or hire one or promote one, somebody that's in those groups, that's a good thing. It adds diversity, and it's you could agree with it or disagree with it, but I think the sentiment is it comes from a good place. And so to me, there's a that has taken hold. And if you're a straight, white, Christian male, you get a little bit of a longer shot now, where it used to be that was you had every advantage in an election. Yeah. I don't know so much anymore, right? If you look at who wins, I mean,
you see that obviously in primaries, statewide primaries, a little bit different, but definitely in a lot of primaries. The interesting thing will be whoever comes out of that, of those three, there will be a moment in time, right, where the race narrows, and are they able to capture some of that momentum? Are they able to tap in to, quite frankly, some of the hatred of Josh Hawley? Not only in Missouri among Democrats, but throughout the country.
They're going to get a ton of money.
Exactly. Because if it's a viable race and they are in striking distance with Hawley, you could really see them be able to raise some funds and have some resources to really make that race. Are they able to do that? What does that window look like? can they capture that moment? I think that's the interesting thing, because a lot of times as a Missouri Democrat nowadays, and I'm trying to be self-aware about this stuff, right? What you want to do is you want to put yourself in position to be able to take advantage of certain
if
things
everything
happen.
strikes right.
If certain things
and
happen,
I really
you're
believe
able to do that.
now, the bottom could fall out of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I think Donald Trump struck lightning in a bottle and has kept it, but I believe the bottom could fall out. There, I mean, listen, what an amazing electoral phenomenon. What a relationship Donald Trump has with the people of this state. I understand people hate him. I get it. But a lot of folks love him, and a lot of folks know he's a bastard, but they think he's a more honest bastard than the other bastards. I mean, listen, you got the president's kid. I don't think Joe Biden is sitting back making money off of some foreign oligarch. I think his son, he had one son that was obviously a impressive man, died early. He had one son that maybe not so much, and probably dropped his name so many damn times the president ain't broken. But it looks bad. And when he gets a deal, no matter what happened with that, he looked bad. And I think that just adds to and I also think, whatever people think of Trump, and seeing Trump, I don't think it was him probably. Somebody could have charged Hillary Clinton with an email thing. Convicted her, I'm not a lawyer, but federal government wants to charge you, they can charge you. Somebody in his administration, we're not going to do that. And I thought that was a very patriotic, good decision. Even if she did it or whatever, it was not good for this country to do that. And somehow the least statesman person's ever been president said, his administration said, we're not doing that. Good on Donald Trump. I think somebody in the Biden administration who come to office as the more polished statesman I can remember becoming president, somebody should have said, we're not doing that. Am I wrong?
Well, I mean, look, the Hunter Biden thing is obviously a distraction. You don't ever want distractions on the campaign.
And a terrible situation. I don't believe Biden did that.
Will it turn 1,000 votes?
I agree.
Election? No.
Biden's a likable guy. I don't think he did that.
As
his son's the shit.
You know what Mark Twain always used to say? History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. Right? And which is a great quote, and I use it all the time in politics. Guess what? You go back to 1992, Bill Clinton is running for president, and he has one motto. It's the economy, stupid. You'll remember that? And that's every time they tried to get Bill Clinton off into some other tangent or whatever, what his political power is to be able to bring that back to the average person. It's the economy, stupid, right? And what'll be interesting is I think for 2 years now, 2.5 years, you've had Republicans that have said, we're going to make this we're going to make this all about the economy and inflation and all this stuff that's happened.
Which is a hell of a message.
And it's a great message.
$112 fill up my F-150 yesterday.
So it's a great message.
Biden needs to stuff them damn hippies in a locker somewhere and find a way. Somebody needs to pay his son to cut gas prices.
Yeah. Now, the problem is the economy's in pretty good shape right now. It's a lot better than what Republicans wanted it to be. Obviously, if you look at where inflation's going, when you look at where job creation is.
Think it's
now, the question is, do people, do they feel that? Right, and that's the question, and that's hopefully what that presidential race might come down to.
Crest at the right time.
Sure,
that's but I don't think you can go to folks right now who are paying exorbitant price for groceries, exorbitant price for gas, and then you just did some Green New Deal. I don't think anybody in Missouri gives a damn about that out of the plaza in the Central West End. If you could cut gas prices at the same time as doing some hippy dippy bullshit with green carbon, whatever, people would be okay with it.
But you mean like building bridges and roads and all that stuff? The Biden administration has done a good job about that. I mean, it's to the situation. It's to the situation where Republicans are trying to take credit for a lot of that stuff locally.
I see.
All over
and
the
so
country.
Liberals are trying to take credit for Cleaver and Blunt. I see the St. Louis Congresswoman trying to take a lot of credit for the stuff she tried to stop.
Sure.
And I see a lot of Republicans in outstate Missouri taking credit for stuff they tried to stop.
Exactly.
So, I mean, there's bullshit goes all around. But I do think if Biden had the ability to keep gas at about $2.50 and do some hippie bullshit, whatever, people would be like, whatever, I don't care. But when you got gas at $3.50 and then you're doing hippie bullshit, I think folks got a problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this is what, if you're Joe Biden, this is what you want that election to come down to.
I mean,
right?
If you're California Corey, internet stalking my son, not wearing socks, you're probably good with all the liberal green stuff, and you probably drive a Prius, so you don't care. But in the public school people like myself, I mean, we drive an F-150. I don't really care if California Corey doesn't mind not wearing socks and having high gas prices. That pisses me off.
Guess what? Almost everybody in Missouri is employed. right now.
I was trying to get Jack to bite on California Corey, but he's so good at this. This is why you hired Jack Cardetti.
Unemployment's at one of the lowest rates it's been.
This is why you hired Jack, because I kept putting hooks in the water to get him to bite on that charter school scam, and he just wouldn't do it. That's why you should hire Jack.
And Hunter Biden.
All right, let's move on here.
You know what I think is interesting too, Scott? Not only is this 5-year anniversary of right to work vote, guess what happens a year from now? Primary time.
Ah, is that right?
It really it is 12 months from this week.
I promised Jack I would keep him here not much longer. The half hour he knew I was lying. But he didn't. I ain't gonna lie too much. U.S. Senate race. You're sitting in this room. You just saw what he can do. Just you ask me questions where you get the same damn answer. It's really impressive. If take your hat off being a Democrat consultant for a minute and put your head on, try to be a Republican. You have Carla May if she wins that primary.
Yep.
On the stage with Josh Hawley, very prim, proper, Ivy League educated, speaks in a way that I think Josh Hawley can get himself down just low enough to connect with the highest part of an average Missourians where they come from. But I think he's straining and they're straining to connect.
Yeah.
Carla May talks a lot like somebody you'd see at a grocery store in Marble Hill or a gas station in Willow Springs. If she gets on there, starts quoting Bible verse saying, "You feel me, Josh?" What do you tell Josh Hawley to do if you're debating Carla May?
Yeah, I mean that she would present the biggest single contrast to Josh Hawley. Right. And that's a good thing in this situation, right? Mm-hmm. That's what she has going for her. Look, I still think Lucas Kuntz, because of the work he put in 2 years ago, because of the amount of money he's raised, he would still have to start off right now as the favorite in that primary, right? But things could really change over the last 12 months.
I mean, a lot of that's internet fundraising. Yeah. He's had to spend some to make some.
But you hope if you spend it early.
But if you're Hawley, what do you tell Hawley to do? Because there's note cards in a debate, right? She doesn't need note cards to quote scripture. And you could say something and she can freestyle a scripture and she's gonna be right.
Yeah.
I mean, she actually knows them and can say them in a dialect that is awful. I mean, to me, debating a woman's hard for a guy. Yeah. Debating Carla May's like double hard.
Yeah. I mean,
and my buddy Howard Park says he won't debate. I think that's what you tell him to do, right? Don't get on the stage with her.
I think you may see him take a pass on that.
So, I don't think it'll hurt him at all.
I don't know that it will nowadays,
and I hate that. That's a sad statement on Missourians, and I hate that because I think it is something we should. And are we just sitting there waiting for a gaffe? Maybe, but it's something you ought to go through. It's a tradition of this state. If I understand why people don't debate, I get it. I don't think the voters give a damn. Yeah. And I almost hate that.
There used to be a lot more hand-to-hand combat.
I tell you what, what if Carla May just went out to Potosi and rented a place across? So Hub's Pub from Bonne Terre's got him a place in Potosi now. And, downtown Potosi's nice. People don't forget, Moses Austin and them that actually created Texas. They're from Potosi. And so that you can rent you a room downtown and she could put it on the internet and debate an empty chair with Josh Hawley in it. And I think I'd watch that on live stream for a little bit because she's funny. It'd be entertaining. I think you could see very much.
Put the meme up of Josh Hawley running down the Capitol
flat
hallway.
Doug, but instead of Doug, tape a picture of Josh Hawley over it there. And I do think though the scenario I could see happening here is I think Josh Hawley's going to win by a comfortable margin. I don't really think the Democrat could win that race. And also Josh Hawley is a very, very good politician. I do think you can see Carla May become a national sensation.
Yeah,
because of her personality.
I think that personality would really show up. The other thing on behalf of Democrats, I mean, a lot of us this summer were excited to see Crystal Quaid throw her hat in the ring for governor. Right now, is she going to enter that race the favorite? No, she's not. But she is a really good politician. She's been great for the Democratic Party here in Missouri. Her campaign will only continue to help Democrats throughout the state. So I think that's one hugely positive.
I mean, let's just look through Missouri history. Noel Carnahan took a race he couldn't really win statewide. I think also Holden did. Come 92, they had a bench ready to go. Nixon took a race he couldn't win against Danforth. Yep. They had when like you said before, when the time was right, there was a bench full of people that were excellent candidates that were tested and ready to go. Do I think Crystal Quaid is going to be governor in a year and a half? No. Do I think that she could be state senator in 3.5? Yeah. And at some point be governor? Absolutely. And this will be a beneficial thing for the party and her down that trail.
Well, and whoever wins on the Republican side of that is a year from now is going to come out of that primary broke and probably a little bit wounded. I think that, and I think that primary is going to be a bruising primary. I think that,
Yeah.
so she'll have an opportunity there where she'll have resources and they won't.
But she's
Now they'll be able to
talented. I
quickly
got a
load.
buddy of mine at the lake does a radio show, and I do every so often. He asked me for a number, and he had her on, and he was surprised she went on. And I listened to it because he's Republican. He's not like a jerk about it. He's a professional guy, but he does a right wing talk show.
Yeah.
And he'd ask her questions that were highly right wing, and she'd handle them because she's from Webster County. And before it was over, it was a very friendly interview because it's just hard to get too ticked at somebody that knows how to answer a question with respect. She knows how to talk to a Republican. Yeah. Now, she can get under your skin. There's no question. I mean, she's been minority leader long enough. But if she sees a Republican that's an honest person, that's honestly trying to have a conversation, she can win you over.
And that's a good fit for someone running for governor, right?
Yeah,
I honestly think that voters feel differently and they look for different characteristics when they're voting for somebody to be governor, somebody to represent them, to represent their state or whatever.
They'll keep you local and keep an eye on you. They might loan your vote out because they keep an eye on you in the state.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal. Whereas the people they vote for U.S. Senator and for congressman, they just want them to vote the right way, right? They're not representing their state necessarily. They don't need, all the qualities. They just want them to vote the right way. And so I do think voters inherently think of those offices differently.
I'm going to squeeze some predictions out of him, but Jack, let me just ask you. You got a guy coming in from out of town. You got some meetings set up for him. Where do you want him to stay if he wants to look like a pro? I mean, you have some hotel choices here in town. What's the A hotel?
Well, I tell you, I was at the Chamber of Commerce. They had the pre-legislative session deal over at our friends at the courtyard there.
It just is what it is. If you want to look like an A player, I always tell people are texting me now they can't get in. So I'm texting Randolph like, hey, can you help me get in? I got this buddy of mine. He's gonna have to build another wing on the damn thing. But if you want to look good, let's say you text me and I can't get you in, and Randolph can't get you in, and on. Just lie. Show up, eat breakfast there. You're going to see everybody you can see. Go do a little work in the afternoon. You're going to see everybody you want to run into right there. You look like a pro. But if you can book it now. You have the roast, night and house. It's going to be great. I pre-roasted night this weekend at the lake a little bit. Then come in, book it for the just stay all 3 nights. Just it's a wonderful place. Go to the penitentiary tour. The go see Governor Dockery's statue. It's a hell of a place. Courtyard by Mary, and then United Fiber. Jack, you've been to a bunch of co-op meetings, haven't you? Have you ever seen a co-op gift like that? I'm putting pressure on Baxley now. I'm thinking about going up for it because you get that giveaway. The Three Rivers board. I'm on Three Rivers and Ozark board. The Three Rivers, you can they had online voting, so I don't think we're going to get like a nice haul. But even if I went to the meeting, you don't get. Look at that cast iron skillet with the. Plus, if you get out of line too much, Miss Carty can give you you'll have United Fiber kind of tattooed right across that forehead.
You know how nice that is? That's so nice that Caleb Jones will probably try to take credit for that.
He already has.
Yeah, I think that's last probably, week. And,
Yeah. All right, prediction time. You mentioned that bruising primary here. Bruising primary is going to come about in that governor's race. I'll give you my short take. Ashcroft could have walked away with this. Eigel is running a great campaign. He's on the attack. He's building in that. He's going to be the guest this week on This Week in Missouri Politics. Will be Bill Eigel. I'm just going to ask him. I'm going to ask him the first 8 questions. Going to be: you run for governor, really? You going to run for this office? You going to run for that office? Who you going to vote for? I'm going to ask him the 80,000 questions about it, and you can judge for yourself how sincere his answers are. But I thought Ashcroft has been pinned back a little bit by Eigel's attacks, which have been very effective. The Eric voting system, whatever that was, I heard about that 6 months, and then all of a sudden Ashcroft said it's fine. Then he pulled out. I mean, that's Eigel's attacks, and I think Kehoe could have ran a Coster race. I really think he could have, which he would have lost. But I saw him come out of the docks with just this scathing ad, total bullshit, and none even close to true. But it was a scathing ad from his pack, and I thought, okay, he's coming to play. He understands the fight he's in. He's here to play. And I think he was done extremely well getting his every associate. If you're not a member, if you're not a member of someone that's endorsed by Kehoe yet, you just don't get out much because everybody's endorsed Kehoe so far.
Yeah.
I do think he's showing up and he's not running the Coster race. He's running I'm going to come and I'm going to shoot. And I think that's what he had to do. I think Ashcroft's not going to run away with this race. I think he's still the favorite, no question.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be some thing where he just walks off with it. I think the Where I initially thought it'd be like, okay, there's folks that are. I mean, if you ever worked a precinct or Republican primary, these are old white people that remember his daddy John Ashcroft,
Sure.
and probably some of them think they're voting for John Ashcroft again. Those I thought there'd be the folks that are in that camp, and in the other camp they might vote for somebody else, and Eigel might split that up with Kehoe. I almost think Kehoe or Eigel's done well enough. He's kind of got his own space now, and is kind of carving out his own niche. And I think that niche is probably 70% Ashcroft voters.
This race looks completely different if Bill Eigel takes 5% of the vote versus if he takes 17% of the vote.
Tell me what the difference
Right?
is.
It's totally different.
What's the difference?
Conventional wisdom is that the more people that get in the race, the more it helps Ashcroft, right? He's the one with the name
That's
ID,
what I would think,
right?
yeah.
He's the
That's
one
what
with
I
the
thought
name
too.
ID. So the more diffused the non-Ashcroft voters are, the better for you, right?
Yeah, I think you get into 4 or 5. That's true.
Yeah, but I think this could be a different dynamic where if Ashcroft has always, because of his dad, he's always had the right flank, right, is impenetrable. If Eigel picks up support, it's gonna be because voters to the right of Ashcroft are going with him. That's votes that would have accrued to him just naturally, but for Eigel or whatever. So I think that's going to be a telling thing. And it's a little unconventional because I think if Eigel picks up steam in a lot of ways, that hurts Ashcroft, not helps Ashcroft.
But I think you put a 4th in there and you start to limit what Eigel
Sure,
can
yeah.
do. And I think 3 may be the right recipe if you're Kehoe or you're, and you know, to say that Eigel can't, I mean, if Eigel continues his trajectory, and Ashcroft still, if he spins and raises what he raised, and so does Eigel will be in number 2 in the money.
Yeah, I mean, the trick that Kehoe has is he's done the great early political work to go get all of these endorsements and support. But let's be honest, those mean less than they used to be. 20 or 30 years ago in a Republican primary, having those groups on board means less than they used to.
Let me ask you a
Unless
question.
you can activate them.
Let's
as
say
part of your campaign.
you're Garrett Hawkins at Farm Bureau, you're Dan Meehan at the Chamber, you're Gary Wheel at the Soybean Association, you're Brad Shedd at Corn, you're Mark Woolbright with the firefighters. That's got to worry you that those endorsements used to be solid there.
Sure.
They don't anymore. What can you do to make your members realize, hey, it's a big deal. Our endorsement matters. You got to, how do you get them to vote for the guy?
Yeah. I mean, unlike 20, 30 years ago, endorsements don't equal votes anymore.
Is it possible for a guy running an association to go back and try to make that so again?
It is. And again, part of that is going to come from the Kehoe campaign, right? How can they get in there and activate those groups? How can they say, hey, it's great we have your endorsement, but that's just the start of what we need from you, not the end, right? You've got to go all out on this campaign.
A year out, I'm Mark Dalton at Carpenters.
Yeah.
How do I make my members vote and follow my endorsement?
Well, you know, the union, that's interesting when you have unions supporting a Republican here, right?
Because you have the number, Donald Trump, I spoke at I think it was a laborers thing. There was no way around. I walked the tables, met everybody. Every table was voting for Trump, and they were happy about it. And they didn't want to hear anybody tell them not to. Now, the head table's all voting for Clinton.
No.
I don't think you could affect if they're switching parties, but if they're going to vote in the party primary, it feels like somebody could be slick enough to figure out how to get your folks to vote for the guy that your group endorses. And
you know how you have to do it is it's not good enough to just be pro your candidate, right? If you're an organization and you really want your candidate to win here, you've got to be able to contrast the candidates to your to your own group and your supporters and your members, because you need to be able to say, here's what the future looks like with this candidate for you, and here's what the future looks like with our opposition. And guess what? A lot of trade association groups are willing to say the first. They're not willing to say the second. And that's really important.
Let's say you're an ag group right now, and a candidate voted against MASBA tax credits. And you we having lunch at Chubby's down in Hayti, and you could tell a farmer, hey, how'd you like that MASBA credit? Well, guess what? You have it here. You don't have it under another candidate. He's already voted against it.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's it. So you have to take the extra step and capitalize on that negativity in the air. And that's interesting.
Yeah, you really have to.
Are they willing to do it for Kehoe?
Here's the problem in politics, right? These trade associations, these groups are saying, well, yeah, we're for this guy. We'd prefer this guy. But at the end of the day, they're both Republicans. We'll be fine with either one. That won't work. That won't work.
I'll
What you
tell
have
you.
to be able to say is contrast, right? This versus this, right? These are the two futures.
And we always
if you're able to
overcompensate
do
the
that-
size of the boot heel a little bit. But if you're a Republican and you're electing folks from here or here, we'll just because Jack's here, we'll put that little blue dot of Columbia in or something.
There we go.
But these folks are not for you. They're going to destroy your school. They don't care about ag. But in here, this whole other part, if you're from any of this part, the problem is they elect folks from those two blue dots and they screw them and they don't seem to care. I just think people just don't have any faith in the system anymore. I mean, this is what the map looks like. And Republicans are out here and they're too nice.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is, I think that's an interesting point. Those groups won't step up and say, hey, we're not going to be okay with this because they're not.
Yeah. And so it'll be interesting to
That's
see
an
all of
interesting
these, all the support he's
Kelton,
gone out.
this is the part we got to clip right here.
All this he's gone out and garnered. But if you can translate that, if they actually will take that next step, then you're in the ball game, right? Then you got a real race on your hands.
And that endorsement matters.
Yep.
Jack, we're not going to top that. That was spitball me though. Crystal Quaid have any problem getting the Democrat nomination?
No, I can't imagine that.
Who wins that Senate primary on the Democrat side?
If they were held today, Lucas Kuntz would win that, right?
Who's going to win it?
I don't know. It will be interesting to see how Wesley Bell performs.
I think
right?
Carla May's running. I think she's been the underdog in every race she's ran in. I think she beat an incumbent state senator. She's going to run. Yep. Wesley Bell, I don't know. He did beat an incumbent.
Yep.
An incumbent that was just godlike in St. Louis County. He may not.
But,
I don't know him well enough.
But in St. Louis County, which was trending,
But Bob McCullough, on election night, people knew he was in trouble. When filing started, people were like, whatever. I mean, Bob McCullough's Bob McCullough. And so the guy did pull off an electoral coup.
Absolutely.
He saw trends everybody else didn't see, I guess. Who wins? If they're all three in, who wins?
Right now, I would say Lucas Kuntz wins, but I don't.
If Wesley Bell's done in, who's in? Does Carla May win if it's just her versus Kuntz?
I think she has a much better chance. Right? I think that's the real chance. And she has to raise money.
State treasurer race. You got Vivek versus Koenig and Smith. I think it's tough slaying one-on-one. Vivek versus one of them, both of them in. I think Vivek's got a little bit of advantage.
Yeah, although the question is and you say that because of the power of incumbency, but does he have the power of incumbency, right? He hasn't been elected before. He was appointed. There's
an Indian American network that I've seen that on his report you can see that I've seen in other people. I called some folks in South Carolina. It was true for Nikki Haley. These people didn't know any of these people. In Louisiana, I got a good buddy down there. Yeah, Bobby Jindal's report had people that showed up for Bobby Jindal, and they've been gone ever since. They hung around just a little bit, but I mean, it was nobody heard of them. Money bomb, trickle off to nothing. Yeah. I think Vivek helps with that. Plus, I do think, the governor is going to get bored, and he cares about a couple races of folks he appointed. I think there's no better rub for a rural Missourian than Mike Parson. He puts his arm around you. You're a good old boy all of a sudden, even if you ain't from here, which Vivek is not. And that's what he's. Yeah. I mean, look, in fact, that's what he's running against. Is folks that are going to make contrast and say you ain't from around here.
The problem there for Governor Parson is that in politics, popularity isn't necessarily transferable, right?
But I think there's nobody better to help Vivek.
Sure.
In this situation, well, I agree with you, but give me the AG. I think AG race is the most interesting race. It's going to be. I think there may be more money spent on that than anything. Who wins that AG race?
That will be one of that's one of those races, and it reminds me a little bit of the Holly Schaefer, all that in some respects or whatever. It's one of those where Andrew Bailey is clearly, for the same reasons we said.
But I would say you have Bailey's war record and incumbency is a big deal, and lack of voting record.
Yeah.
And then you have,
and he's doing some of the right things to use incumbency, which is, look, if you're AG and nobody knows you're AG and they don't hear about every week you being AG, then that power of incumbency lessens. But he's out there trying to use the office. And look, in some ways I like, some ways I don't. I remember when I was in the AG's office, the great thing about the AG's office is 80% of the time you're going after bad guys, right? These are 80-20 issues, right? And so
in the Republican primary, he's stuck pretty close to those.
Yep.
I wonder this. I think Scharf being a federal prosecutor makes him a little bit better resume than Hawley. I tend to think the same money comes in that came in for Hawley.
Yeah.
I know they tried to do some things early on to show the federal people they weren't against them, but Washington people don't care. I mean, we're a place like color on a map. They don't give a damn.
Yep.
They're going to come in and like their guy because their guy's been given a bunch of money. His family. I mean, that's in a way, how do you dog people for loyalty, right? It's going to be the most interesting race to watch.
Yeah.
I think it. The hometown guy's going to get outspent a ton, but I still think he can win because his story is far better.
Sure.
But can you? I mean, it's going to be a dogfight. The campaign's going to matter.
Yeah.
It's really going to matter. And some of these, I think Vivek Malik in a three-way race, the campaign's not going to matter that much. I think he could win it just like that. If the other two win, the campaign will matter. The campaign's going to matter a lot.
Will Scharf has done everything right to this point.
Yes.
Right? He's raised money. He's consolidated mostly Washington political support,
Sure.
whatever. The question will be when those two candidates walk into a, what do you guys call them? They're not Truman days.
Lincoln Day, right here,
yeah.
yeah.
You walk into a Lincoln days or
Scharf
whatever.
Doesn't walk into Lincoln days.
But he's going to have to some degree.
Maybe.
And what's the reception he gets there? How well does he work?
Josh Hawley
these
go
are
to Lincoln
things
Day?
that weren't as important as they used to be. But at a gut level, if that's the unknown about a Scharf candidacy, right? He's done these other things, right? If he can go in and relate to people and one-on-one turn people to vote for him, he's in a really good position at that point, right?
That's Andrew Bailey's best point.
Exactly.
When he walks in a room.
And that's his stock.
That's his place. I don't think Will Scharf ever, except very outside situations, gets a room beside him because he doesn't have to. Hawley proved you don't have to go to stuff in Missouri to win a Missouri race anymore. I doubt Scharf stands beside Bailey very many times. And it's not that Will Scharf can give a great speech if you read it, but Andrew Bailey can give a better speech if you say it out loud. Will's brilliant.
But that's the upside for Scharf, right? If you ever can figure that last piece out.
Bailey took naturally to the public speaking.
Sure.
I'm impressed by how he took to being able to do an interview. I mean, he really that had to be a lot of talent because he started at the highest level. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. I think the campaign will matter. I have no idea who wins. I think it'll be very interesting. And I'll ask you my last question for you. Take your pull of the Stein of knowledge there. Jack Cardetti, Prince of Phelps County, thank you for joining us. Filing day, we go have a beer at Patty Malone's. Next door at the Secretary of State's office, what line is Bill Eigel filed for?
Look, Bill Eigel has gotten a lot of traction.
Yep.
Right? And
that's not why I ask you.
Look, I'm not sure Eigel started off a governor's campaign to run for governor, but I think he does at the end of the day. Because I think he's gotten enough traction here and he's landed some punches.
Oh, yeah.
He's raised some money. And so as long as that money doesn't dry off, as long as he continues to have an impact on the race, and Senator Eigel wants to have an impact.
I think he will.
I think he will. I'm not sure he announced run for governor to actually run for governor, but I think he actually does when we talk about filing day.
I agree with you. I think that
I love when you say that, Scott.
I actually think, in my gut, I thought he was always kind of running for governor, but I thought he could have been talked out of it. On my show this session, he gave a bit of an answer. This we're going to do some polling later in the year. And I was like, okay. That to me is like, okay, I'm not really doing this.
Yeah.
I actually think the guy files for governor. And I'm like you. I think he got into this like, we'll see what happens. But I think he's done well enough. I think he's running for governor.
Yeah.
And if he can convince people of that, I mean, there's a hesitancy. People are going to write him checks until session starts. Because he can raise hell in the Senate. He's proven he'll go do it. He'll actually go on the floor and stop things.
Yeah.
And he doesn't give a damn if you like it or not. You can withhold the money for the St. Charles water plant. He don't care.
Yeah, in some ways,
and that's valuable
in some ways, he's the corral. It's just,
yes.
he's the.
I think he's more effective without Senator Onder. I think Eigel can do more, actually accomplish more.
Interesting.
Without on his own, and I wouldn't. That kind of counterintuitive. But I think he'll, once he proves he's running for governor, I could see a couple people that have supported him that he's produced for, come back and make him a very viable candidate. I still think, it's been, what was it? Wasn't Donnelly? old Lebanon County senator, came and ran. He served 2 terms consecutively, like Kid Bond, before you could serve back-to-back terms. Phil Donnelly came in. I don't know if he could win, but I actually think he's running for governor. We'll stop it there. I took almost double the time, but you had to expect that.
There we go.
Buddy, thank you a lot. We'll
Anytime.
see you Sunday this week in Missouri Politics. We'll have Senator Bill. Like, I'm going to ask him 8 times if he's running for governor, just so everybody knows. You don't have to text him. I'm not going to say, hey, what would you ask him? I know what you'd ask him. I'm going to do it. See you Sunday for this week in Missouri Politics. See you right back here next week for the midweek.